All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoders around the world, wherever the hell you're at. My name is Logan, Decode Your Reality, your tour guide. Another episode of Let's Talk About. This time we're going to be discussing the upside down world. And I have a very special guest. I say that with great honor because I had done a reading for her. Name is Robin, and I had done a reading for her. And this is who my guest is for Let's Talk About the Upside Down World. And she has a very specific talent that I thought was worthy enough to come on and bring her on the show here and talk about the upside down world, because when I had done her reading, her astrological chart clearly showed the markers, and it was totally insane, ladies and gentlemen, how deep her chart went. This is her astrological chart, and I just want to point out to all of you that her spirit card is the Ace of Spades. And the Ace of Spades is the wizard, the magician. It is the 40th card in the deck, and it's tied to the word television. You're on television. Amongst so many other things, it's tied to the Elohim. Genesis 1 verses 26. We bring theology into it. And if you look to your 9 o'clock position where that Ace of Spades is, you're going to see the death card there. And the reason why I have that death card there is because of her Pluto position. And, Pluto is tied to the underworld, obviously, Hades. She has it in her first house. It's referenced through Virgo, which is the human being experience, carbon. And this is where her Rahu is. Okay, so there's a big marker, and this is where her Ace of Spades sits. And it also sits up in the 2 o'clock position where you're going to see the number 30. The reason why the 30 is there because Robin was born on May 30th. And when you extend the nakshatras through the 27, 28 goes in the middle, 29 is the number 1, 30 is the number 2. The second nakshatra, called Bharani, is tied to Yama, which is the god of the underworld, which is tied to Hades. And you have her moon over there at the 3 o'clock position with Ketu, where her spirit lies, going all the way across to her Rahu. This woman right here, man, has the ability to see things that normal people can't see. Now, there are other people out there that can do this, but she has a very specific talent, and this is the reason why I wanted to bring her on this podcast. So this is going to be a voice only. I have a lot of graphics to show all of you, and we're going to let these things play as we start to get into this podcast. So I'm going to bring on Robin. Robin, welcome out to Decode Your Reality. It is an honor to have you here.
Hey, Logan. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm really excited to share some of the things that I'm going to be sharing today. And, I just want to start by saying these are pretty deep topics. I haven't even shared some of these with most of the people that I know. So we're going to be going deep. And I want to encourage people to, stay until the end, because while we are going to be journeying a little bit into the shadows and under the bed and bringing the skeletons out of the closet, I am going to be going into like the silver linings, and it's going to be a fun little walkabout today. So there's definitely stay till the end.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, which I'm a huge fan, the Duffy Brothers, and I got to decode the show and the Duffy Brothers because I'm going to show how it's scripted. But, let's talk about the upside down world. So Robin, what is the upside down world in your lens of observations?
Well, if it's all right, I'm going to share by storytelling today to kind of walk through some of my experiences as I've experienced and as I've perceived them. from the time that I was young to, and jump around to different experiences that I've had throughout my life. Because, just as most people are, as they're growing up and stuff, they're exploring this physical world, the world, that we are perceiving with our five senses, our five external senses, and we're putting that information together in kind of a data set in our brain to navigate the physical world. I've been exploring and putting the data set together for sort of the behind the veils worlds and different things that I've experienced and places that I've gone. And so very specifically, what I would classify as the upside down world is pertaining to a number of different experiences that I've had. And I'd like to go into like telling the story of what those were. But to start off with, I'd like to, when I just kind of set the stage, for when I was like 3 or 4, when I was pretty young, I, a lot of people have experienced this, and I know that there's probably some of you out there that, might have memories of this. There's, plenty of people that I've come across since then throughout the course of my life that, have memories of this and that do see. And then there's a lot of people that don't see or don't remember. But I used to, when I was in bed, when I was really little, I would have these beings come up over me to feed off of my energy at night. And they, I got to see them in like full Technicolor. They were, they were pretty freaky looking. Some of them, they behave differently. Through the course of my life, I got to kind of map out some of the different types and species and stuff, but there are these like paralyzing demons. And I call them demons because that's, it is just a word. I've also called them feeders. I started to classify them as feeders. But they would come up over me at night and suck off my energy. And I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to shaman, I've talked to different people, and they're a very real thing. So that's, that is one kind of layer of seeing behind what is externally presented to most people. As far as like the full-on upside down world, it's akin to, for me, the experience is akin to like in Lord of the Rings when Frodo puts on the ring and all of a sudden he sees, the kings in sort of their true form, in the behind the, I don't know how to, I guess it's like in a different oscillation a little bit, or behind what our external senses are picking up. They're like behind a veil. But to be totally honest, I've had different experiences where there's multiple veils that some of these predators will come through in order to come into this reality here. But anyways, going back to when I was little, so I got to know these paralyzing demons, and they were, they freaked me out. I was plenty scared. I tried to go and talk to my parents and my mom about seeing, the fact that they were coming up and they were feeding on my energy at night and what they looked like. They were kind of like sort of, some of them they look like a combination of like a gargoyle and a dementor. And some of them will have like these big long fingers with these big long fingernails and stuff, and like intense teeth. And you know, I would sleep at night with my covers pulled all the way up to like right underneath my chin and be sweating to death, or I'd have it, you know, my covers over my face, because I didn't want to see them.
What was the age that you were at when this started happening?
I remember back to being about 3 or 4.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that's the farthest back I can remember. I know that not actually that's not true. I have a very clear memory of my soul coming into this reality, before I was born, like on the way to being born. And I remember like my consciousness, whatever you want to call it, like I was like a ball of light, type of thing, or my consciousness. And I was coming into this reality, and I actually was traveling past, um, these very, very large beings that are like over this reality. And they, without even like taking much notice or anything, as I was going past, one of them just like reached over and tagged me real quick, um, on the way past, and it did it just in this very fluid fashion and stuff. And I later on, when I was around 13, I wrote a poem, because it was an outlet and stuff for some of these things that I couldn't talk about. But I called them the puppet masters, because the way that I saw them, I went up and saw for a minute through their eyes,
Uh-huh.
looked at the way that they look down at this reality, and the way that they see is very different from the way that we see. They look down and they see, lights. Like if somebody is, more aware or more awake, or embodying more of their light essence, they see, the light, the people
Mm.
light up and stuff. But they see all these lights, and they actually move things around, almost like on a chessboard, like chess pieces on a chessboard. And anyway, so that was my earliest memory
Well,
of,
let me ask you. So you saw these creatures, but so if those exist, obviously I know there's people out there listening that would say, well, what about the opposite? You have the yin yang, so those would be one half of it, the dark side of it. Have you ever seen any angelic beings that kind of would counteract the demonic beings that you're talking about?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. No, there's 100%. Like when I was 16 and I was in San Francisco, I remember like I was walking down the street. I was actually on Haight Street, but I was walking down Haight Street, and all of a sudden, like everything kind of like darkened for me. Like it was like the lights got turned down, and on one side of the street I saw like these dark shadowy beings coming up, and then the other side of the street I saw these like light beings coming up. And it was super trippy, because it was like, oh wow, okay, like these are full on, like here's the two forces here at
Right.
play
Right.
in this place. And yeah, I mean, I had guides, I had, non-physical teachers, guides, when I was growing up. And my issue was, because I was having these experiences of actually seeing, the paralyzing demons, seeing the feeder demons, like seeing, and, like I said, I've come across people since then that fully know about this stuff. Shamans from ancient Mexico, they know about this. I've asked people. I call them the feeders. Apparently, the Toltecs call them the flyers.
Yep. The
Um,
flyers. Yep.
the flyers, yeah. But I was seeing all of these, whatever you want to call them, flyers, feeders, flying around, feeding on people. And I started to kind of map out like the different ways that they would behave and what they would do, because there's actually different types and different species that I came across and stuff, and they behave differently. And
So let me ask you, what's the main way that they feed on people?
Well, the flyers are pretty much like they're pretty like free flow here all the time around people. They seem to be, from what I've put together, they seem to be have free access to like our dimension, to our reality, and free access to feeding on us. So on the humans here, and the humans are essentially their food, like
Yep.
the what I would call our vital energies, or our source energy. We are energetic beings. So
Yep.
I mean, that's another thing, is like when I go into this other type of site, when I look at people, people don't look solid to me. They look like, uh, these, glowing, energetic, like, um, threads, fibers, like it's like almost like electrical pathways and stuff, but it's your energy flows, and it's like these it's a whole map of like, well, and again, now I know because I found it not too long ago, but the Toltecs call them luminous fibers, and it's what it looks like. But there's also like there's geometrics, and I mean there's different ways that you can see it. There's geometrics and there's colors, but all of our energy is oscillating
Mm-hmm.
here between like a bandwidth
Right.
that keeps us in this reality. It's like basically we're like a radio wave that is oscillating between a certain frequency bandwidth
Yep.
to exist here. And when I look at people, there's areas of their body and stuff that if there's an issue going on, it will show up, as like gray or black, or like it'll have different colors because it's oscillating at a different speed and having an issue. Or it's got, different people will, because of things that they do throughout their life, they'll also what I would call fray their wires. So like
That makes sense.
overload their systems. It's
Uh-huh.
like when somebody is taken too much of something and they feel fried or something. It's that the source energy, when it's moving through our body, turns into an electrical signal. It's like we're magnetic beings. And if it's overloaded, then you'll get like these frayed wires and stuff. And so if
So
I'm
that's what
going
you can
to
see. You can act because we were talking, ladies and gentlemen. Robin was at the Archaics event in San Diego last year that I got invited to, and I was able to meet her. That's how we ended up hooking up and got a reading and all that stuff. But this is something that she just told me. Like she's like, yeah. So you were actually, you can see people's energy on stage. Like if they're going to go up on stage, you can actually see their energy expressing itself. Is that right?
I can see different people's energy. It's in, like I was telling you, um, I listen to spirit and the guidance that I get and stuff, just like a lot of people do, but I follow things and I don't always know why I'm going where I'm going initially from the front end. But when I was there, you and Joel both stood out to me because you guys were glowing. And you had a particular glow in a particular way that I knew that spirit was pointing you out to me. So that's a thing. I see certain people glow in a certain way, and it has significance. It has significance to me because people's fields also talk. Like people's fields, people's fields are data sets too. They contain information. And if you're listening through your energy body, which the Toltecs call the double, then you can get different information. So
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, so Joel was the other. He was the one that really stood out to me at Jason's event.
Yeah.
Not belittling anybody that was there. Everybody there had great information. Everybody there had amazing information. But Joel's the one I really resonated with, and I being a little biased because Joel and I kind of share similar thoughts on how this reality works. And I just really like the way he kind of carries himself. Him and I are doing a podcast on the 22nd. I'm doing it on his show, so I'm looking forward to that. But he's somebody that you kind of look up to and work with as well, right? Because he's so entrenched in this this culture of the things that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, well, he's been really amazing for me recently because prior to, everybody has reasons that they have their journey construct itself the way that it does, right?
Yeah.
Um, and throughout my life, I was having all of these different experiences and without a teacher or without a guide. Like everybody that I was speaking to, I grew up in a traditional, like matrixy
Yep.
Western family with parents that pretty much thought that, it's not real unless you can hit it with a hammer.
Right.
But now I very clearly see that things are set up for us for reasons. It's like those things that are our challenges, ultimately, if we can, move through them, they're there for a reason. They're there to test us and to hone what it is that ends up being our greatest gift. And so the fact that, not only did I get to have this interior glimpse, or not glimpse, but like full understanding into the world that most people are completely immersed in, and that they believe that that's all there is, because my parents were completely and totally like, the matrix is all there is. And I'm using these terminologies just because they're widely understood.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
But, I got to see the way that most people view the world, but at the same exact simultaneous time, I'm having these completely different experiences. And, anytime that I tried to share them with anybody, my mom or anybody, it was like usually the response I would get was a lot of fear and, don't tell people that, you're going to scare them. And I'm somebody that is like, I have a huge heart for people. Like I love life. I love people. I love, all kinds of different experiences, but I'm very sensitive in a lot of different ways. And that to me was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to hurt people. Like, I don't want to scare people. Like, I would get pretty intense reactions. And so I learned to keep everything to myself and find other outlets. I would write stories or poetry or draw pictures or whatever it was. And so, meeting Joel and telling him some of my most intense experiences, and him being able to not only field them, but having information about, and the fact that what I have been experiencing and the things that I've come to know and mapped out on my own through a very hard way to do it. I did it experientially. And so I made mistakes along the way too. I actually got myself, into some dangerous situations. But having somebody that's like, oh yeah, all of this that you're talking about, is the teachings of these, shamans from ancient Mexico and the Toltecs and, like these other like very deep esoteric traditions. And I was like, great. Like fantastic. That to me, that was like kind of like the sun parting through the clouds, like this hallelujah moment of like, oh my gosh, somebody actually knows what I'm talking about. Like, somebody can hear me.
Yep.
And not only that, they have like, more information and, other experiences. And I was just like, it was kind of that moment of like, one, I'm not crazy,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'm
and
saying
coming
after all.
home.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Huh?
what I love about you, and when I did your reading, and clearly the astrological map was so profound because of like your moon position in Pisces, and that's Pisces and the moon, water. This makes you very empathic, makes you a feeler. Your K2 is there, your south node of the moon. That makes you very spiritual in the sense of Piscean energy, and then across the way is where you're going to find the drive for you, which is in Virgo and people, and leaving some kind of legacy and masterpiece behind through your individualistic efforts, and being able to utilize your going deep down into that rabbit hole. And I could see why you have the ability to do these kinds of things, especially like Chiron, the wound of the chart, is known normally as where you're going to have to work on some issues in your life, and I'm sure there is some layers to that where you had to go through that as a child. As you said, you made some mistakes, but I also look at Chiron as the catalyst for where people can work through you. And this is where your Chiron being in the 30th space where your your birthday sits, and the word exorcism in numerology equals 30, and it's in the sign of Bharani, which is the god of the underworld and ruled by Yama. And so these are all very telling in your code, and this is the gift. These are the gifts that you have. Let me ask you, Robin, when did you figure out, or when did you kind of stop being scared of these experiences that you had as a young kid? Like, no one was listening to you. You were told to shut up, not talk about it. Did you finally break free of the fear of when these entities, or did they just stop coming around? Were you able to control the experiences? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was decently scary when I was little, and the guides that were with me at some point, I became scared of them as well, and so they ended up leaving. And then it was I didn't want them to leave, and I was looking for a lot of answers and stuff, and I made the mistake of playing with a Ouija board with a friend of mine,
Mm.
which I would recommend don't ever touch those things. Highly recommend, like, do not touch them. Don't play with them, because there's so many things that are in our that are really out there in stories and movies and stuff that are legit.
Yeah.
They're real.
Uh-huh.
The forces that we're really, that are around us and that we're really playing with in the world that we're in is magnificently beautiful. And also, because we are such powerful beings ourselves, we draw those that are seeking power.
Mm.
So yeah,
Okay.
so I I guess it was when I was going out, like leaving middle school and going into high school, that my experiences like started to get more intense and change. And I started to get it might have been my age too, but I started to get a little bit more like recklessly testy with them.
Mm.
Like, kind of like, all right, I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of like, all of these different things. Like, what are you actually gonna do? Like,
Yeah. So you were, yeah,
and
okay, I got it.
and so yeah, so I started to, and I started to kind of like almost like fight back in a way. It's kind of like when, somebody's backed into a corner, and then they find that courage and that strength inside to stand up and to start, kind of fighting back and stuff. And there were memories that would come through, remembrances and stuff, because I had experiences like when I was little, and when I was in my middle years and stuff, my like middle school years, of seeing people behind mirrors. And when I saw them, when they would be like watching me or whatever, I actually had all these memories come through of the mirror systems, of what the mirror systems are, that the mirror systems are, they're portal systems, they're travel systems. You can use them for travel.
Now, what do you mean mirror
But
systems? What do you mean by that?
the mirror systems, like mirrors are they're travel systems. They're like portal systems. You can use them for travel. You can but you can also get stuck in them. They're a very dangerous type of
You're just talking about
travel.
like a regular mirror that you look into to get ready for work? So like something.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
So
Okay.
mirrors or flat surfaces or shiny surfaces and stuff, but mirrors especially, they're like they can be used as a looking glass. Like you can look through a mirror into anybody else's mirror anywhere, like if you know how to use that technology. So it's just a different type of system. But what I'm getting at is, I don't want to go too deep into that. I would recommend, though, that people, don't play around with mirrors or, surfaces and stuff unless you have a guide, unless you know somebody that is very advanced or you're very advanced yourself. It's those, because people can get stuck in them.
What do you
These
mean?
things
What do
are
you mean?
all
What do you mean by stuck?
like, as in stuck, like you get stuck in the portal systems, the travel systems, like you get stuck in the mirrors and you are not going to be able to make it out.
So
Like,
what happens to your physical body?
from my understanding, the physical body would sort of become like a vegetable, the shell here, because the part of you that traveled, the double,
Uh-huh.
the energetic double that traveled, would not be there anymore.
Mm.
Would be stuck in the mirror systems, in the portal systems. And this concept, it's funny because almost all of this information is shown to people in various ways. I've seen parts of this alluded to in a Disney movie from the 1980s called The Watcher in the Woods.
Mm.
And I've seen the mirror systems, like, they have the mirror, carnival mirrors where you go into and you almost get lost in like
Yeah.
the mirror
A house
systems
of
and
mirror.
stuff.
Yeah. House of mirrors.
It's actually the reason why, it viscerally, any of this stuff viscerally stimulates a deep body knowledge that people have of this stuff existing, but that they don't remember. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like it's so exciting, or so interesting, to watch some of our movies or entertainment, to have these experiences, is because there actually is a recognition of some of this stuff, but, people have forgotten.
Uh-huh.
And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to get to that later on. But yeah, these mirror systems and stuff, I had like a remembrance of, how they work and how to use them, and the fact that they're, it's a technology, it's very real, and it's just part of the physics of,
Sure.
what we're actually in.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Well, so
So,
go ahead.
well,
Go ahead.
let me finish. So what I was getting to was, I ended up getting or working through my fear sometime in my teen years. Was like the first layer they started shedding it, because I started standing up to them. And then in my 20s and stuff, I was having various experiences of like this one time, I ended up buying a lucid dreaming tea at a shop,
Okay.
and I went and took it, drank it, and ended up having one of the paralyzing night demons, or flyers, or actually, it's not even a flyer. That's not even a flyer. It was a different type of species, but one of this one came through like layers of veils really quickly when I laid down um, at me from the left-hand side. And when it came through like our reality that we're physically in, it actually appeared physical in front of me, but I could see that the rest of its layers were still in behind these veils. And it came out over me, and I could feel my consciousness being pushed down into my body, and it was putting me to sleep, as it does to most people. When it feeds, it puts people to sleep in like sleep paralysis, or very deep sleep. And I know a lot of people experience this. And and it does that when it feeds because it does not want to be found out. And I was feeling my consciousness. It was like down around my belly button. And I just was pissed. And I was like, oh, hell no. And so I started clawing my way back up with my consciousness and my energy, bringing myself back up with like every ounce of strength that I had. And I actually got my body to move, and I came back up into my head and turned my head to the left and was, saying no. And it stopped and it retreated, and it like went right back out the way that it came. And there was a lot of energy and force coming out of me and stuff. There's validity to a lot of different things, like the in Harry Potter, when that Dementor was coming in on him in the woods, and he did the like Patronus charm or whatever. It's they're almost like metaphors for what it is that you're actually doing. But there's ways that you can bring, that you can take care of your energetic field, your luminous egg and your luminous being, and that you can project out, that you can either take care of it so well that you don't taste good to these things anymore, and that you've gotten past your issues, wounds, and traumas, and that you're not taking in poisons and all these other things. Or you can project out your field and at these things and stuff too. So I've experimented with different ways of dealing with them, but I was totally surprised at this thing being able to come in when I drank this tea, because they hadn't been coming. With the point that I had gotten to, and the changes that I had made in my life and the different things that I had done, I hadn't had an issue with any of them coming to prey on me or anything for quite a while. And so I immediately was like, is this the tea? And because I do know that if you take in something that is like a calling card to them, like it's vibrating on like a certain, if it's a poison to you in whatever way, and it's also vibrating on kind of like the level that they vibrate on, or is some kind of calling card to them, then you're the one that made the conscious choice to take that into your body, and so then they have access to you.
All right, so that would probably include the typical processed foods, alcohol, drugs, et cetera, right? Those are probably
100%,
the typical.
100%. Like,
yeah.
Alcohol is a really interesting one. I actually,
as I have a glass of wine right next to me.
Dude, alcohol, like, they call it spirits. It's right in your face.
I know. I hear you.
It's literally in your face, but it's also, alcohol, even from just like a purely physical perspective, people should go and watch Andrew Huberman's podcast on alcohol. He did a really good podcast on like the actual physical effects and stuff.
Yeah, it's a neurotoxin. That's what it is.
No, it's total poison.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a reason why that's being promoted worldwide and stuff. And it's always been promoted and stuff, is because it is 100% a toxin that you take into your body, you choose to take it into your body. And it is a total calling card to these feeder spirits and stuff. I had this one experience when I was at a club in San Francisco. I went to go see a friend who's a DJ play his set and stuff, and I was standing at this like kind of up by the DJ booth, looking out over, you know, everybody that was dancing and everybody that was enjoying the music. And there was, you know, there was at a club, so there was a lot of alcohol being served, a lot of alcohol being consumed and different things. And I stood back and I was just like, my jaw was on the floor because I mean, the room was just full of feeders. And but it was the ones that tend to come in most often with alcohol are like they reminded me of the uncles in Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Okay.
They were totally like these, like, you know, the three uncles in Casper the Friendly Ghost. They're kind of like they're really like, they have gross humor. They're really like they don't give a crap about anything. They just like, they're just there as like shit disturbers,
Yeah,
and they just want to have like this, you know, kind of, you know, ruckus type of fun. And those were totally the types that were there, and they would like, you know, put their non-physical hands together and they would like dive bomb into people, you know, and I would see them go into people, like diving into people, and then I would see the person open their eyes, and I could see these you know, the other eyes behind the human's eyes opening up, and then they would walk around inside people's bodies like taking a car for a joyride, and they would, you know, be in there for a little while just like having the best time ever, and then they would pop out and go into somebody else. And I was like I was like, holy cow, like, these things are having the best time ever. Like, they are full on just driving these human cars around, just out for a night on the town, just having like the best time ever, you know, feeding off of people, and also but also making them do things that they wouldn't normally do, and or whatever. They were just enjoying like the life ride for a minute.
Yeah.
And so,
I
yeah.
can see that. So they're basically
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
for a host. I mean, that's all this whole reality is based on being a parasite. We're like, we parasite Earth, we use Earth. We're basically, you know, the Earth is our host. And then you're talking about a fractal through the spiritual realm. And now you're talking about these feeders that use us as a host to experience a reality through physically.
well, but the thing is that it's like the layers and stuff. I feel, you know, we were not intentionally set up to be parasites. That they're, from what I know at this point, the like the feeders and stuff, that, like I said, it's almost like right now we are in a mind prison. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this place is a mind prison.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an inorganic like layer of coating over the organic layer. And the feeders that came from, like, the Toltecs say that they came from deep in the cosmos. So you know,
So extra dimensional.
Yeah, they came from someplace else, and, you know, they were, from what I have observed myself with my own personal experiences, they're drawn to, you know, they're drawn to power, they're drawn to source energy. But, you know, I've heard from some of these teachings and stuff that this place is a place of power.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, there's a lot of like power dynamics going on here. But they did, apparently they came a long time ago, and that they've been, I know, like, Carlos Castaneda's teacher Don Juan said that they what did he say? That he said that they've been here for, you know, like a very long time, but that they are our companions for life, and that they are our Lord and Master. And from me, traveling into some of the various realms and also observing things, that does seem to be the case. It does seem to be the case that we are in a mind prison, and that the reality that is being created, that we are all sort of walking around in, like the social and cultural reality that we are aware of, has been created to their benefit. And it's being created so that we can be controlled and that we can be kept docile. And that just as, we keep chickens in chicken coops, they keep humans in human coops, which is the
That would
mind
make sense.
prison.
Yeah, that would make sense. So we're basically a farm.
We're a farm.
We're a farm.
And
Yep.
so, but that what they're feeding on is, it's been called our luminous code of awareness. So there's human babies are born with this super amazing cover over your luminous egg, over your luminous body, and it's like the code of awareness. And if you have your code of awareness intact, then our abilities and stuff to, what people nowadays call like magics or sorcery or whatever, it's just an understanding of universal physics. And, if you understand the universal physics that you are composed of, and how to work with the universal physics that we're in, you're going to have a totally different type of experience. And that this code of awareness is amazingly delectable to these feeders, and they eat it. And they only leave a fringe that goes from the ground to the tip of your toes. They only leave enough to keep humans alive. And but it keeps people not aware. And it basically turns most people into, from the very aware and you could say, quote unquote, magical beings that we are, into a piece of meat. And because people don't have the ability to be in their full essence or their full abilities.
Got it. So let me ask you, Robin. So we had some questions coming in about consumptions of certain things. We talked about alcohol. When you were out there at the club and you had seen these divers, these feeler divers jumping into people, what about using, because there's a lot of people here using psilocybin, mushrooms, and cannabis and all that, as they would just say, as medicinal or tools. What about those? Have you had any experiences with that? And is that something they feed upon as well?
Yeah. So, a lot of my learning has been through experience. And so I've done things and I've made mistakes, and then but I feel like experience is the deepest teacher.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
So I don't look at any of it as being anything negative at this point. It's it's all been informational. If you can work through, your any kind of emotional baggage and stuff through it, then it just becomes information that guides you forward. That's very neutral, which is powerful. But I was I've been a psychedelic facilitator, actually. So I've supported people through journey at different points in my life. I'm not doing that currently. But I did have an experience with a client that, and I'll go into that in a second, but just to answer that question, yes, it matters very much how we take care of ourselves, how we take care of our beingness. And discipline is something that's really important, and being impeccable.
Okay.
really being impeccable to your design and knowing your design and listening to your guidance through spirit. But here's the tricky part with that, though, is that um the and this is a little complicated for people to understand, but the flyers, when they came in, and since they've been here and stuff, part of the voice in our heads is the flyer's mind, that they actually gave us they're influencing what people are hearing and stuff. And so to really get down to like your true mind is something that you would want to work on, with discipline and with silencing your mind. Like they're not super favorable. They like the chitter chatter, and they promote a lot of the talking and stuff, and what ends up influencing people to engage in what ends up being emotionally or psychologically destructive loops or behaviors, and also convincing people that they want to um, keep going for pleasure seeking, addictions and all kinds of different things. All of those are ways that, people's auras, their energetic bodies, their luminous egg becomes weaker, and it ends up looking like Swiss cheese, which gives them all kinds
Portals.
of opportunities
Yeah.
to feed. Yeah, it's like, any kind of addictive behavior, whether it's watching porn or gambling, or if you're doing substances regularly, then that is an addictive behavior, that is a drug, and it absolutely will weaken your field, it will attract them. Absolutely. And eating, it's the reason why we have all the poisons in our food, is because it keeps us as a docile population, it keeps us as a good food source, because it's weakening who and what we really are, and it serves them very well. So, alcohol is a poison, it is a toxin. I personally don't recommend it. If, I do, I also, I'm like you in like that I don't like to tell people what to do.
Right.
And I also respect everybody's journeys and stuff, but if you're here listening to me talk and listening to this, then I'm just going to say that there's a reason why you're here, or
Yeah.
or the ways your soul wouldn't be ready to hear it.
Yep.
But yes, there's any substance that you use, that you're doing regularly, that you're addicted to, or it's gonna weaken your field. It's gonna be beneficial to them, not you. And you do want to do a very good job, taking care of yourself, getting your food from the very best sources, as far as
that may be challenging for a lot of people.
well, and it's actually, I mean, it's the reason why I'm out on land and stuff, is because at one point spirit took me into what happens along the way with food, from either seed, growing it to mouth, or from conception to mouth. Every single piece of energy along the entire way goes into what is carried in the food that you then are consuming.
Yeah.
So if you're raising factory farmed food and you have workers that are, super angry or depressed, or
goes into the food,
not well taken care of, it's all going in the food.
Yep.
And it ends up being what you're consuming, and if it's irradiated, I mean, all these different things. And so it's not going to bring us into the luminous beings that we are and the abilities that we actually have. And so anytime that we give our power over to anything else, to be totally honest, it's, part of this journey right now that everybody is on,
Yeah.
is this, in this moment where we have the opportunity to, awaken to bigger and bigger concepts, and, kind of lifting the veils and what's really going on here, is also, on the table with that is taking your power back. And it's radical self-reliance and radical responsibility. And not that you have to do it yourself. I mean, I'm very, very much, in support of community, and, I'm forming one here. And, we are definitely meant to be collaborative and work together.
Yep.
But every this entire place is energy. Everything matters. And
It's an energy farm, man. It's an energy farm.
On the flip, yeah. on the flip side of that, don't take yourself too seriously. And at the end of the day, the people that are, if you're around somebody that's very, very, very wise, they always kind of have this lightness around them and this like air of humor, because, at the end of the day, we're essentially in a story of a story of a story.
Yeah.
And we're dreamers in, when I first met you, I don't know if you remember, I was asking you about, or telling you that, when I think I was 13 or something, I woke up outside this reality. And this is something that, after talking to Joel and stuff, that I know that this is a thing, this is a real thing, in that, this is what the ancient shamans found and stuff, is that we, there's a dreamer basically that's dreaming us.
Yep.
And so, there's layers to this, and there's also, in the wheel of time, there's different grooves and stuff that you can go and play in. And I mean, that brings me around to, once you have, like, if you get to the place where you've really cleaned up your life and you've really, like, worked through, because issues, wounds, and traumas will also act like poisons. It's there, if you haven't healed and stuff too, that's, if you have a lot of triggers and different things that those are weakening pieces too. So there's ways of, you can do recapitulation, and you can, work on various types of, ways of healing, of untangling your energy from from time and from energetic entanglements with other people. But you can bring your energy back into itself, all into yourself now. And, just really cleaning up your life in every way, like all relationships, even your house and your closets, and your finances,
feng shui, right? I mean, basically just doing a life feng shui. This is why I love, like I don't know, for me anyway, and most the listeners here know that I'm a minimalist, and this is like, I've decluttered my life by being a minimalist, and the energy is very wide and spacious around me, and I have really no attachments, no physical goods, even relationships. Like, I have a lot of acquaintances and friendships. But even, would you say, I know this is a pretty, maybe a dynamic and deep question here for you, but what about love relationships? I mean, would you even say that these feeders can feed off of people when they get into relationships, because they're, having a lot of sex, or they're, doing the promiscuous, whatever?
Oh, baby. Yeah. I actually, when I was kind of through this last week, when I was jotting down notes of maybe things that I would want to share or talk about, there's a whole section that I wrote down around the sexual energy piece. A
lot of you are like, oh, damn.
No. Wait, hold your horses. There's like, it's not, I'm going to go into some things, but we're actually, very interestingly, and this is something that I, was also talking to Joel about, and everything, was all of the sexual energy pieces, because for quite a while, apparently, some of the people that were doing this work were celibate, and they were talking about, they really promoted people not having sexual relations at all because of what actually happens. And for my own, so what the Toltecs talk about is that a man's energetic threads actually they go into the woman's womb, and because the woman's womb is like the seat of power,
Right.
it is where all life, all human life here originates from. It
Yep.
is like it's the dark cosmic womb. It is the great mother. It is it is the seat or the birthing place,
Yep.
where humans are coming from. And so the man's energetic threads go into the womb to basically receive parts of her, some of her power for 7 years. So if a woman has had sexual relations, the man is actually receiving energy from her for 7 years. And so, if you have multiple sexual partners, that's, and then it becomes like this power dynamic. But what I've observed and what I've been taught, I also talked about with him and stuff, and like because I've gotten a lot of information, and it's also we're actually moving into a time that is different than their time, and each time has its own teachings and has its own energetic balancings that need to take place for various reasons, whether it's like a healing that needs to occur because the pendulum was swung so far one way, it has to swing another way in order for it to find its balance and stuff going forward. And we're going into a time where that is not the case, because what I've seen and stuff, I've had I'm gonna share something kind of personal, but also just as a teaching. I years ago, when I was intimate with a partner that I had at the time, I saw his shushumna, his golden liquid energetic column, light up during right in front of me, and I immediately, I felt this kind of excitement and hunger, and I, without even knowing what I was doing or even thinking about it, I drank the energetic column. I brought it into me, and I had no idea, I didn't know about any of this. I didn't know what I was doing, or there was nothing bad on my part. It was something that it just ended up happening like super quick.
Right.
And I later on, after the fact, he went to work. I was home and I was like cleaning, and I literally felt like I was high. Like I felt like I was high as a kite, and had incredible strength and incredible energy, and was like, going around the house, like vacuuming under the couch, like almost picking up the couch with one hand,
wow.
type of thing. And in that movie, Something About Mary or whatever.
Yeah.
I was just like, totally like I was feeling like on top of the world. And about 2 hours after he had left, he comes dragging back in the front door, and he literally was gray. His skin was gray. He looked like death. And he was like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm going to go to bed. And right at that second, I totally knew what had happened. I realized what I had done. I realized that I had drank his vital energies. And I talked to somebody. Much later. And I was told that I could have killed him. That is something that women have done, in the past. There's stories about it, about women drinking young men or taking vital energies and stuff to retain their youth and all of that kind of stuff. And I so anyway, I was told that I had been taught how to kill, and that you can that way, but that you also can, usually people are also taught how to heal, and with the sexual portal is obviously very powerful. It is a power center.
Big time.
It is it is a huge power center, which is why, all of the sexual everything has been so targeted,
Yeah.
and manipulated and used in all kinds of different ways, which are not serving men or women.
Yep.
And, but I also was taught how to heal with the intimate experience and how to revitalize both bodies. And, it's, knowledge is interesting because knowledge is like a sword. Knowledge can sculpt the most amazing life that you would ever want to lead, and knowledge can also destroy you, or take you out and take out others around you. So, knowledge in and of itself, and you found this. I've been very impressed with how you have put together, from the exterior world and stuff, all of these different symbols and different things that you've found that are, all through esoteric teachings and cultures throughout the world, that, you found that they're, they're not demonic, and they're not it's just knowledge. These symbols, these sigils, it's knowledge. And symbols and sigils and words and all these things, and so many different teachings. Yes, they contain power and stuff. Yes, knowledge is power and stuff, but it's also neutral. Like, knowledge is neutral. It really, and I say knowledge is a sword because it depends on the hand that holds the hilt.
That's right.
The hand that wields the sword determines what the knowledge does. And it's also why with this place being a place of power, if you look at some of the forefront symbols and different things that are used in esoteric teachings or that are used in religions, the symbols themselves are used because they're powerful. And it's the forces that have come in that have infiltrated. You can see that on really, really easy, basic levels, with the whole ayahuasca thing down in South America. Is like, once that started to gain a lot of popularity in the last so many years, and a lot of
feeding frenzy, because it became popular.
Because it always does, because of the feeder's presence here, and because anytime that you have power someplace in something, they're going to come in. And there's a dynamic. They
want their piece, right? They want their share.
So it will always, with the popularity and everything, then you had a lot of stories of people going down and having very terrible experiences, and people, like, in all kinds of different ways. And that you will always have that when you have something that is of power. And one of the reasons why I was why I wanted to work with Joel is because he follows a path of heart, and he is not seeking power. And that is that path of neutrality and stuff you talk about. The path of neutrality is actually where you're going to find freedom.
Well, because you're not being fed upon, right? When you're neutral, you realize that the feeding takes place when you start to focus on a certain layer of reality. Which, if you're seeking money, that you become a source of energy. Because if you become a millionaire, and you start having these layers of being able to spend and buy, and now you start getting emotionally involved with the spending, and now you want more, and the 1 million, you want to make 10 million. All of a sudden,
there's a hunger.
You get a hunger, and then it's
There's
it's a
hunger,
fractal.
but you're after power dynamics.
You're an after power dynamic. Yeah, it's so interesting how this whole reality works. I want to ask you a question, Robin. Someone is asking a question. I think this is a pretty good question. What do you know about targeted consciousness? Like there's people out there that get gang stalked and all that kind of stuff. What is your take on that? Like being targeted, people coming after you. Would you say those are karmic debts that you have to pay back if you're somebody who believes in that kind of stuff? How would those feeders come into play on that aspect? Or do you not know? You don't have any comment on that?
Well, I do, but it's
Is it complicated?
It's complicated.
Okay. Well, can we make it simple? Like so there is a thing to it.
Yeah, and it's 4:44 on my computer right now. So that's an interesting question. So yes, there is. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Cloud Atlas.
I watched a little bit of it. That's with Halle Berry, right? And Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So, there, I'm gonna share the story of a client that I worked on, and sort of as a way to partly answer this question, because I think it'll elucidate some of it. So I had this client that came in at one point with backache, and had like this back pain throughout, like, for many years. And as soon as I shook his hand, as soon as I met him, I immediately I went into this like movie that where I was seeing everything that he had experienced through like a prior life, and then what had followed him into this life. And I saw him as a little boy in a prior life that had been very, very severely sexually and psychologically abused in the Catholic Church. And the people that were working with him had broken his soul, basically, had broken him to the point that like a demon could enter and take resident inside his body. And when it came in, it like wrapped itself around his Sushumna, his central energetic column, and would feed. And but was also within him. And in this life, and the human was still there, but there was like literally like a parasite in him.
Yep.
And it had followed him into this life, and had fed off his central column to the point that it had broken in the center. Like it was like, because realize that with us as food, like they have to maintain a fine balance of keeping us alive and keeping our minds happy, like keeping us entertained, giving us enough
stimulation.
Stimulation, and giving us enough that we would want to be here, that we would, so they have to maintain a certain level of health and happiness and psychological well-being. So, they design sort of the program that we're in and the way that like serves so that we're still here and we don't decide to just, exit. But they also have to keep us like healthy enough that we're here, that we're still like able to be food and continuously bring in source energy to be food. But this one had fed off of him to the point that it had broken his central column, and so it had actually and the guy's body itself, because the guy's body was also trying to fight for survival, had actually energetically scaffolded the central column. And I saw these scaffolds on the sides and stuff, like propping him up from falling over and stuff. But for him, in his conscious awareness, it just manifested as like insane back pain that he couldn't, that nothing had been able to help. And so anyway, so we did some work for a while, and I kept getting messages at that point where I was. This was years ago, and at that point, I was not equipped enough to deal with what it was that I had been presented, because it was the first time I'd ever been presented with like a full-on like possession.
Mm.
And so at one point when I was in session with him, the demon fully came out, like fully came out.
Wow.
And I could not. I tried a few different things and I could not get the human in him to come back into like front and center.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, he got up and he was pacing back and forth, and we happened to be in a house, a friend's house of mine and stuff, where I would do session. And like he walked into the kitchen and he picked up the knife, and like I mean, the stuff that was coming out of his mouth was like a combination of every horror film that you've ever heard. It was like the worst of the worst of the worst that was coming out of his mouth. Like I was like, could not believe it.
Was he talking in
The
tongues, or just like he was just being really
like
nasty?
talking about like, you know, lining women's bodies up and chopping them,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
chopping them up and doing horror. I mean, he was very descriptive with what he was talking about doing, like in very horrible ways. And he was like, he was trying to like play on like, you know, sexual grossness, you know, horrific, horrible things, as you know, as well as like psychologically trying to mess with my mind. And he was trying all these different things, and I knew they were all tactics, but I was just trying to get the human back, to
Yeah.
come back into the forefront. And at one point I had this thought of like, I'm in trouble. I'm actually in physical trouble here and I should call for help. So I ended up calling my friend's husband, and they were next door, and the husband came over and actually ended up the presence of another person and stuff. The demon kind of went back because it's interesting. They don't, one of their greatest fears is actually being found out. They don't want to be found out.
Yeah, they want to be hidden. Yep.
They want to be hidden, and they don't want people to know, you know, what it is that they're actually doing, or to see them, or, you know. And there's a lot of I found out that there's a lot of mind traps that have been set up on purpose, and I call them golden spider webs, because people that are awakening, what I've observed over the past so many years is that people that are awakening, they get caught in these golden spider webs. And there's a lot of teachings out there. There's a lot of you know, things that act as distractions, and people will get caught in them. And there's even there's synthetic, I mean, there's synthetic psychedelics that I actually have taken that act as mind traps. And I've gone in and you know, the whole thing is set up as a mind trap. And, you know, they will make people feel very blissful, or but they veer them off in different ways. Will give them all kinds of things to entertain their mind, but will lead them away from the truth. And I feel like to some degree that, I mean, like I said, from what I've observed, I mean, people have a visceral knowledge of what's really going on here. You know, there's a reason why people react to, you know, so these concepts in movies and stories and all these things. I mean, you know, they're the guards to the prison we're in. They're the dementors that guard Azkaban, and we are the crazy ones inside Azkaban that have been fed these lies. And the reason we're crazy is because, you know, we don't actually know the real, you know, we're believing in stories that have been put there for us. And societies and religions and teachings and stuff that are meant to keep people divided and fighting amongst themselves. And, you know, what I found, because I was taught Well, and you actually, I mean, you helped to clarify this a little bit, because you went into my human design and you said that, you know, all of my centers are closed,
Yep.
that you had never
Defined.
seen
Yep.
anybody that had, all closed centers, and, that is unique, in all the, I don't know, however many people you've done readings for, that was unique and stuff. And it explained to me why I have not been susceptible to sort of the programs that have been put here and stuff, and why I have seen things the way that I have. I mean, when I was like 9 years old, my poor parents were trying to present to me, this world that I was supposed to inherit and all of the roles that I was supposed to take on. And I was kind of like, no, no, thank you. And there is a much better way to do this, and this is not it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you had all these, the human design was all defined centers, and that, you're closed off. You're here not to really take in, but to give out. Obviously there was a lot of that, but your chart is very crystal clear. I mean, you have your Pluto is in your first house with Rahu, and that clear, and your Chiron wound being in, and I think the Chiron wound is you being the catalyst for people, which is why you've been somebody who's been in the healing space, and you have these talents and abilities that are very rare. I mean, there are other people that have talents such as yours, but these are very rare. So you're very unique. You're in a very small percentile of people. And even your cards, the Ace of Spades and the Two of Clubs. I mean, you are the future. The Two of Clubs, the interesting part about Robin, ladies and gentlemen, she has her birthday on May 30th is the Two of Clubs, and that's the card that Elon Musk has. It's the card of Philip K. Dick, who talks about Minority Report, moving towards a perfected society. So, you're talking about sharing space with energy that's a big deal on the world stage. And that Two of Clubs is tied to the Ace of Spades, which is the magician and the wizard, and it's tied to, in my opinion, it's tied to the implant in the brain. I think all the decodes I've done, I think everybody essentially is being used by energies outside of us. That leads me into the next question, Robin, to kind of shift it a little bit here, because we've talked a lot of the daunting things about the upside down world, which, clearly is talking about the feeders and all that. But we did mention the angelic aspect, the good guys. In this, it's interesting because in the Society of Jesus, which, it has a bad rap, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm not defending, because most people that hear the Society of Jesus, they'll instantly and automatically think, oh, it's the bad guys. But listen, there's a duality to everything, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just going to go into the origination of this organization and what the story says. And what the story says about this organization is, back in the day, and whenever they were founded, I don't even remember the date, but they would take people up into the caves of where their retreat was, and they would teach people that there were angels and demons that were using human beings as puppets. Like, as Robin mentioned, there's a puppet master. And so now we shift into the lighter side of things and the angelic aspect. So can we talk about that, Robin? Like, what you saw as a child, these feeders, and living through these layers of paralyzation until you could figure it out, and then you finally stood up and said no. But what about the angels? What about seeing these angelic beings, and what is their role, would you say? And did you have any interactions with that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of different interactions with, what I would call like the benevolent forces. I years ago, actually, because everything energetic has its physical manifestation, and like you were saying, you were actually at one point you were talking about the physical parasites that people deal with and stuff in their bodies. And because we are in a parasitic relationship, with what's behind the veils, people actually are manifesting physical parasites in their bodies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's just because the energetic and the physical is it's all connected.
Right.
And, but so, I mean, it's one of the reasons why people are getting really attracted to parasite cleanses and stuff right now, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I had, like I said, the non-physical teachers that it kind of goes into a whole nother layer. There's a few layers I'm not going to go into today and talk about, but yeah, there's absolutely benevolent forces of various types. And, you know, I've had years ago when I was, a lot of the things that I went through in my early years were, you know, were very difficult as far as experiences, especially because I was not able to share them.
Yep.
That was another kind of difficult layer there. And I ended up at one point, you know, my fear and all of that manifested an abusive relationship, which, you know, I think that was very valuable as part of my overall training. I've since been told that, you know, shamans will expose their apprentices to tyrants, or that they will expose themselves to tyrants, um, in order for training,
Mm.
for training to become, you know, become stronger and to become warriors and to not be afraid of things and to figure out how to deal with all of these different aspects, to not have anything throw you off, or take you out of your center and stuff, or take you out of your power. It's kind of like Jedi training, you know, to
Mm.
be able to stand and to be in front of anything and to, you know, maintain your clarity of mind and your power and your ability to, you know, to think and to move and act and everything. So I did, when I was coming out of that relationship and I was in court, when I walked into court the first day, there was two, like, probably 30-foot tall beings with wings. You know, they looked like people would describe angels. Um, and yeah, but they were, the ceiling was probably 20 feet high, and they were crouched. So their
Oh
wings
wow.
were kind of,
So
their wings,
they were in the courtroom.
they were in the courtroom, and they were just behind where I ended up sitting, like kind of like, you know, guarding me, and they remained in there the entire time. So those two I have not seen since, but it was incredibly helpful through that experience. And yeah, I mean, I've had, you know, like I said, there's a group of women that that come to me that have shared a lot with me, and that their group has apparently been around since the beginning of time. And I'm not going to share a lot about them, but, you know, they've been wonderful and supportive. And there's elders and ancients that have come. When I was up in Mount Shasta with a shaman that I was working with for a time there, I just went for like I think I was literally there for just like a Reiki session
Mm.
or something. But we were just talking, and this woman came up through the earth and came up through kind of my tailbone area and in through my body, and then walked out from me and turned around and started talking to me and giving me instructions and handed me some tools and told me how to use them and different things. And she gave me a bunch of instructions, and I shared them with the shaman that I was there talking to. And he looked at me and he was like, well, that's all accurate. I guess you better go do those things. I was like, oh, great. Okay, cool.
I love it.
And, so yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of different moments in my life that I've interacted with different benevolent forces, and they are totally there. Um, you know, the the path to freedom essentially is keeps coming through in so many different ways that it is the path of neutrality. It's like the middle path. It's you know not being in the fight in any way, that you're no longer in that you're actually no longer in the spiritual wars, that you are like stepping forward, creating, stepping forward in a new way, stepping forward, not being part of the, the struggles, the fight. Even a type of law that I've been using and stuff, to stand for myself and people here and stuff, it is actually a type of neutral. It is the law of fair dealings.
Yeah.
And it is something that was included in our court system in 1938, I believe, after the quote unquote emergency of 1933. But it's just over and over again, like I said, it's just the path of neutrality keeps coming to the forefront of, like, follow the path of heart. Don't don't go after seeking power. And that doesn't mean to shy away from power, because we are powerful beings. And as you are becoming more aware, and as you are working on yourself, and as you are bringing more power back into your beingness, just be aware that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
That, as cheesy as that is, that we're talking about, humans were originally designed to have what we would classify as magical powers, or abilities, that with our full coat of awareness, that we're able to act in different ways. But that also means that you have to have a great level of impeccability and a great level of responsibility, and knowing that capabilities that you have can cause damage, and that's not going to be the reality that you're going to want to create, because we're coming out of a great time period and a reality that we've all experienced that has been very power hungry and extremely destructive.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've gotten the lessons of that.
Yeah.
To at least some of us have.
Some of us have, yeah. Those of you that are here have, yeah. Those of you that here have. So we're talking with Robin, and her website is originshasta.com. I've pinned that to the top of the chat. So if you're interested in checking her website out, and we're gonna talk about it at the end, because she's got some stuff going on up, and if you're close to Mount Shasta, may want to reach out. originshasta.com. Robin, we had mentioned this, and I want to move into this because this is pretty awesome. I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's movie They Live, and I've done a decode on it, right? So we're talking about the upside down world, and this has been obviously very dynamic, very broad. We've mentioned a lot of different layers of information, but how does this movie They Live, and of course that news station, it was specifically news station 54, and 54 is tied to the underworld in a big way, but what is your take on They Live?
It's funny because there was a Studio 54.
Studio 54, and the 54, the 54th card in the tarot is the sleeper. It's the 4 of spades, which is the sleeper card.
Yeah, and it's also 9. It's also 9, and 9 also, is also completion. I've been seeing 911 repeatedly over and over again for quite a while, and it is like, it's for me, the messages that I'm getting with it is that once you hit 9, you can either repeat the cycle or you can begin a new cycle. And that 911 is it's a double power with the 2 1s of like beginning a new cycle. So get, moving through the completion and going into like through the death and into the new beginnings and the, a different possibility. And I'm going to just, wrap up with, I had started to talk about the sexual energy piece. We're coming into a different time period with that, where we're coming into the possibility of awake and aware people being together and being able to participate in the healing and the amplifying aspect of sharing energy. But you've got to be very aware of what you're doing energetically and stuff. It's like the rules that we learn in our exterior world. There's rules and there's mechanics and physics to like the energetic world and the other aspects. And so once you start learning those, and once you kind of know what you're doing and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of possibility. And I feel like we're now in a time which is super cool, where people can come together and have a completely different type. I mean, they moving into like more of the aspect of like, like divine union of possibilities, but also realizing that we are all independent. So, the possibilities for a different type of relationship where there's no power over dynamics.
Yep.
And there's no feeding off of each other, because we've all been so brought down, to such kind of like low energetic levels and stuff. There's been part of the hunger and stuff that people have that's running through them, like you said, the implant, that is the feeder's mind. That is what what I've seen, and what the shamans of ancient Mexico saw, is that the feeder's mind is in our mind too. And that our hunger and stuff is actually their hunger, because they've been cut off from source, and their only choice is to feed on anything like life forms. Humans are very juicy with the code of awareness, but to feed on what it is that they do not have access to anymore, or that they don't have access to. Like these are they're also referred to as inorganic beings, but that their hunger is pretty great. That they're kind of like vampires. Once they start feeding, they have a hard time stopping themselves.
Sure.
So we're at a place in time where they're making a move. They're beginning to make a move where they're trying to take more control than they've really ever tried to take before. I mean, they're really coming into like a full-on control dynamic in a lot of ways. And part of that, I actually I showed up or transported to the hallways of this reality. I showed up there in this like kind of this room that people come and go in. It's like the transport room. And the only way that I can kind of describe it is it's like in Harry Potter when they travel through the flue or the fires, and they show up in like a fireplace in some other room. It was kind of like that. But when I was led through the hallways of this reality, I ended up meeting up with, there was 2 Tibetan monks that met up with me to give me some information. And, but what I noticed, what pertains to what we were just talking about, is what I noticed there when I was in that room, is that the benevolent forces don't use digital. They don't use, they use, they were like...
Were they analog?
They were using analog.
They're using analog. That's funny.
They were typing on typewriters, and
they're sticking with the 8-track players, huh?
And like we're writing, paper notes down on paper, and like we're talking over. They actually had telephones and stuff, but like that literally in the hallways of reality, talking to 2 Tibetan monks, like walking through. I'm not going to describe. There was a whole like walking through some of these doorways, there was this big key ring that this guy had that was leading me there from the transport room and stuff, and to get to this place and stuff, which was pretty wild. But yeah, they were not using digital, and so
they're more so they're basically, so the way I see it is that they're more simplistic, right?
Well, yeah, and here in this place, because of the infiltration,
Yep.
the digital and the AI and all that stuff is used by the malevolent forces,
Yep.
and so it's something that can be hacked. It's something that can be tapped into, so they just don't use it.
Well, it's electrical, right? So you're dealing with, now you're dealing with frequency big time. When you're doing analog, I mean, pen and paper, you can't really, you have to steal that out of a safe, but digitally you can do it remotely. You know, there's the cyber attack, and this is so interesting. This topic is really deep, but yeah, that, like, the simplicity of the horse and buggy compared to the super supreme slick self-driving cars of the future, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, it's like, it's not that I'm talking about, you know, not being advanced technologically. I'm talking about being advanced technologically with the creational physics that we are housed in, and knowing how to work with the creational physics that are around us in a completely different way that people have not been practicing or been aware of.
Sure.
That, like, the knowledge has been taken away and hidden and demonized in every way possible.
Sure.
So it's just, you know, again, it's like the people that are, you know, that were up there using typewriters and stuff were also people that could transport themselves to the hallways of this reality, and that could talk to each other by interfacing, you know, mind to mind and things like that. Like, there's, you know, with this increase of, you know, this crazy technology kind of outside of us, you know, people are being distracted and being totally swept up by that, you know, where if everything's energy and everything's frequency, and you're living in a city that's where you're being bombarded by, I don't even know how many frequencies around you, and you're living on concrete, and, you know, so you're cut off from the earth, and then you're bombarded by frequency, and you're probably eating whatever. And I mean, you're just separate. It's the layers of separation. You're layers and layers and layers deep into separation from, you know, the organic frequencies that are going to support you, like, really amplifying and kind of coming back into this, what we're supposed to be in, you know, in this very powerful, beautiful, balanced, grounded way. And so, you know, it's more about just the, like, when people are distracted to that level and they're, you know, they're always immersed, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to amplify through this time period their organic technology. Like, you have like two choices. You have two paths right now that are presented and stuff. You can either go further into the separation from original source, or you can go, you know, you can choose kind of like the organic path, the going back into, you know, the wholeness,
natural. So going to a natural, that's, I don't want to get too off I'm not even going to get off topic on this, but I want to talk about, because you're doing something, you're creating a community out there where you're at, which is a vortex. I mean, it's a no secret that Shasta's like, you're on a freaking vortex there. But, you know, I have this friend of mine, one of my best friends, and he is a huge fan of a channel on YouTube called Suspicious Observers. And that channel, I don't know if you know who that guy is, but that guy's all about what he thinks the upcoming solar flares, which is why they're creating these underground bunkers, because they know that something's going to come and there's going to be a plasma event and a lot of people are going to get wiped out, and that's why they've out there, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, we had this amazing conversation, and we were talking about the movie Logan's Run, and that whole story was, you would have to turn yourself in at the age 30, which, is tied to Demiurge. You're born on the 30th. It's so fascinating, right? But you'd have to turn yourself in at 30 to get recycled back in. Well, then there's these runners, and then you have the Sandman, which is what Logan was. He was a Sandman. He would go after the runner, and he ended up becoming a runner himself. And the whole moral of the story was him and this girl, they ended up leaving the city, and they left, and they found that there was something beyond that city, and they found the analog system again. They got out of the digital system. They got into the analog system. And so we were talking about this. And so my friend, who's, very wise, he thinks that there are eventually going to be smart cities. And the mark and all this theological aspect, you're going to have to make a decision. And this may be where free will comes in, where you're either going to stay in the city, or you're going to get the hell out of there, and you're going to go into, the analog, the country, and you're going to go and you're going to be a part of communities such as what you're building out there. What's your take on that?
Well, so one of my experiences, it was before 2020. I don't remember what year. It was like 2018 or something like that, 2017. I'm not sure. But I got a message to go in and get in the bath. And so, and water is a very powerful conduit. So I set up the room in a certain way, and I went in and got in the bath, and I immediately I showed up in the upside down, and was literally like full on in what I would call their space. Mm-hmm. And I looked to my left, and there was these two 9 to 10 foot tall, like they looked like the kings when Frodo put on his ring. It was like their true form. It was somewhat similar to that. They had these LED like white light eyes though, like super like LED light. It was really weird. It was like fake light eyes. And but they were talking amongst, like, between the two of them, and they were kind of really fast exchanging information and stuff, but they were giving commands to like these, what I would call their minions, but like their workers and stuff that I saw in front of them, to move their equipment, and that they were moving a lot of their equipment out of the United States, and that they were moving their stuff to different places. Mm-hmm. And I got the message that what I was seeing as shadow beings in that realm were actually that was like their true form, but that they were some of the like leaders and heads of that are in our world here that we see as humans. So like, again, that's like they live in that they have like a different form past kind of the surface that they project that just looks human. And but that they were between themselves, they were like, ha ha ha, we're going to feed them to the wolves. And got the message that like the wolves partly meant that like us as each other and something else, and I don't know what that something else was, but that they were going to basically like pull the bottom blocks out of the Jenga tower and let the Jenga tower fall. Okay. That that the people are on here, like the reality that they're going to pull the bottom rungs out. And after they've moved all their stuff out and gotten everything set up and stuff for themselves. And so that, everything that's happening on the world stage and stuff is, part of something that they're working with. Right. And that, I got the message that eventually at some point in the future that the borders are all going to come down. That it's going to be kind of more like a one world type of thing.
Yep.
that there's going to be cities created. I call them the machine cities,
Yep.
but there's going to be these cities created that are, completely like run and policed by, digital AI means, and that, it's really going to do their work for them, because they're going to step out of the positions of leadership and power that we know, and to that they work very like psychologically brilliantly, though, and that there's going to be things that they set up and do that the people are going to feel like they are creating their own future, and that they are like they're getting the people to actually call for the takedown of the governments, and they're getting the people to create like the blockchain and the Web3 and all these things that is actually going to help police them in the future. And these guys are still going to be behind the scenes, but the people are going to think that they have gotten themselves into a new version of paradise and freedom, and a sort of an equality that the AI is going to maintain, like its police force, so it's going to be quote unquote neutral, but that these cities are going to be contained, kind of like Logan's Run, and there's going to be like they're going to be population controlled, on how many, and it's all going to be for like the people, because it's always a psychological mind game. The people are going to be told that it's for the environment, or it's for being green, or it's for whatever it is, preserving wilderness and all these different types of things. But that I saw that it's a possibility at some point that the people inside the cities won't know that there's anything outside the cities. And this is, I don't know how far into the future this is the one thing, but there I saw a parallel kind of reality that's also building in the people that do live outside the cities in communities, is going to be a totally different type of situation, and that we're going to like exist parallel alongside each other for a while. But that far, far, far into the future, I don't know how far, but that at some point the cities they're not going to forever maintain themselves, that they actually I did see that there is a very positive future here, that the people that are going into further layers of separation will eventually like come to like that will eventually self-destruct at some point in the future, and that we will be coming back into our like the fullness of who we are and stuff, and that people will be slowly at some point, those that are even in the cities leaving the cities or whatever. But just like you, this is stuff that I hate to do predictions.
Yeah, I know, because you get crucified if you get them wrong.
Well, because the thing is like there's factors to it.
Yeah.
We, depending upon what happens, that there could be changes in that.
Yeah.
Like we can, and I don't know what all those are. I mean, that is literally what I saw. And so that there are these two pathways, there's these two like possibilities. And, for a while, like for right now, because again, I'm taking the neutral path, I am, because I know that there also exists organic technologies, that there's frequency technologies, and there is what I call biothriving technologies. I actually have a friend in San Francisco who is part of a company that has started a biothriving technology based on frequency that does not harm life, and is doing some really incredible things with water that is also like it's healing the lands, these big farms that they've been testing their product out on, and It's actually bringing, like, it's healing the plants and all of these different things. So there are, I mean, I've given my own names for things over time, just because words hold power, just like sigils or symbols or anything else. And, you can strip off the layers of the extra meanings that have been kind of infiltrated and put on words by the years in society. But sometimes I just like to come up with my own definitions for things, and because it's more neutral. But these biothriving technologies, which I also call them elven technologies and stuff, just because we were originally intended to be these amazingly aware stewards of this organic earth. And this infiltration came in at one point and has been here, but they're like I said, they're afraid of being found out, and the people gaining their self-confidence and their power and healing themselves. And there's a whole thing where we can starve them out. Enough of us become aware of what's happening and taking care of ourselves, and we can create a future that is like really, really, really amazing and really beautiful. And so what I'm doing here, and what I've been working really hard on, is creating the alternative option and creating the other option to the option that's being presented to people, which is like super digital, super AI, super all that. I'm also, I am working with, I'm not afraid of anything. And I'm working with the, different parts of society as it stands right now in ways that I feel comfortable and in being led, but I'm, using things as tools. I don't allow them to, take over anything and stuff. And I am, I'm being very aware of, doing my best to be very aware of how all of the energetics are, at play here. So I'm out here, I'm, up in the mountains on 160 acres, and I'm, really super excited to, build this other option going forward of like, the very, the best in biothriving and organic technologies, and, just kind of living our most vibrant and best life and sharing it with other people. And, I don't think that we have to lose any opportunities and stuff. I think that there's just ways that we can structure ourselves to be able to, stand for ourselves and to have all of our rights and our power back, and to, move in and out of society as we choose to. And so I've been, working with a group up here out of Nevada City that works to help you structure your finances and your assets and your property and everything in ways that really give people more power than they ever thought or knew that they could have, because a lot of these laws and stuff have been
laws. See, like
hidden and buried.
I'm so lazy. Like I just want to be left the hell alone, man. Like I just like if like there was no time in my life when I got to choose if I wanted a government to rule over me. Because if I would have had that choice, I would have checked off the box.
That's the same with any of us, though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the same with any of us.
Yeah, so like you have, like I got a friend of mine, Jeremiah, who's like big into the what's his name, David Allen Wynn or whatever, who's into the grammar crap. And it's like, it's so complicated. I'm like, dude, that's like, it's like
syntax and
grammar. Like, why do I got to do that crap, man? Why can't you just leave me the hell alone, man? I don't want to have to go do anything. I just want to go grow food and feed animals and live in nature and go by the beach and create shit. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to try to file land patents on this. All that shit has to go bye-bye, in my opinion. That stuff has to be completely rammed. It has to be eliminated completely. And I'm a fan of that. I hope that, because I'm a nihilist, man, and I hope that all that shit gets taken out completely, where we just have bare bones.
It is a lot. I mean, where I've been, I've got a land patent here on the land here, and I've done all of the, setting myself up in the private
Yeah, and
jurisdiction
how
with
long
this
did it
group,
take you
and
to do all that? How much money did it cost? How much time did you have to invest? It's a lot to do all that stuff, right? The education itself takes some
well,
time.
I would say that it was a lot to filter through all the bullshit out there,
Yeah,
because there's
just give me my
there's an
damn property.
insane amount of, yeah, there's, and I mean, and there's a lot of good people over the years that were working really hard, that tried things that didn't necessarily work all that great. And so I've learned a lot through this process. But the thing is like, Logan, I really feel like it goes back to like your life path and your coding, and where spirit is leading you, because, you know, I've been led this way
Uh-huh.
to work on these things and set up these things, and have had the drive and the energy and the fervor and the excitement to do them, so that I can structure this piece of sovereignty and privacy, and where, good people can come, and I've set up a lot of these structures, and can help other people easily set up things that actually do stand, that are pretty straightforward. And because I work so hard filtering past all the BS, and I've really tested everything that I'm doing
Yeah.
in order to make sure that
Well,
it
that's
does
great.
stand.
That's
So
great.
there's people, I feel like, that are driven to do that, so that, others, and then other people have their drives and have their
Yeah.
mission, and have, what they're putting out. I mean, what I'm, and you can partner up with those
Sure,
people.
sure,
It's like,
sure.
as we're going through this whole transition, like, I'm looking for people that want to live on land, and that want
Yeah.
to, be a part of, creating this new future, where, we're redesigning it in a way that's like completely vital and thriving. And I need people that want to just come in and just, either be a part of it or help, or,
Yep.
you know and so, that's the thing, is like, we're not all driven to, fight the same battles or to do the same thing. And um I more and more, the things that I'm doing and stuff, it keeps leading me back um to putting our energy into creating what we want to create,
Yep.
and letting spirit guide us to like collaborate with others that we're going to resonate with. And, maybe the person that we collaborate with has, set up structures, or has set up things in this interim time period, where you can go underneath those structures and you can totally live your best life. Or maybe you've been led to live someplace and structure yourself in a way where that is working for you, and that's totally possible. And, because eventually I feel like these things are not going to be needed, but,
Yeah.
I also feel like I've been led to them right now for whatever the reason is.
Yep.
And I've been led to stay here, in California, in the United States. So
Which is a tough place to be, man. I mean, you're in a really cool spot, but California as a state, man. I mean, I was there visiting, and like, I could not believe, that's when the prices started going up, and I couldn't believe how much the food's gone up. And that's the value of
Oh, it's crazy.
crazy.
But like, I mean,
crazy.
there's stuff that's organically happening here that's
Yeah.
like also totally the remedy, or the antidote, or the whatever you want to call it. Simultaneous to that, it's like, source through her like grassroots, that's coming through people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in all of my lifetime, I've never seen so many people naturally turned on to like homesteading, or growing their own food, or
Yep.
like learning to craft their own things. I mean, it's literally just coming through people.
It's blowing up. Yeah.
Yep. Needing to do, and what we're doing. And,
Absolutely.
there's a whole barter and trade system that's actually developed up around the area that's around this property. There's lots of other families that are amazing, awake, beautiful families that are also on land, and they're all growing and raising different different things, and there's actually a barter and trade that was running last year and stuff. You could pay money or you could trade things and stuff,
Yeah,
and
that's
it was
cool. I mean,
really
there has to be
like,
obvious system in place for that. So, but ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Robin. Her website is called originshasta.com. Her talent, obviously, one of her many talents is she has the ability to see things, the upside down world. She's been in it since she was a child. Maybe you resonate with that. Maybe you too have that same situation or have had that same situations. Robin, we're kind of getting down to the brass tacks on time here, and I don't want to go too long on this, but I wanted to get back into this They Live, and They Live in the movie, and them, you put in the glasses on and they were able to see the reptilians in there. What's your take on that? Do you think that they actually exist, and how would they fit in this upside down world and these malevolent beings that are here to feed on human beings?
well, so we have actual physical, like, if you want to call it evidence or whatever for this all over the place. I don't know if you've ever come across like the military's reporting of like, I think they're called dicyanin goggles, that the military, I think they were dicyanin goggles. There was some military thing that I read about, and forgive me if I don't remember all the details exactly, but they, in some war, they were testing out these night vision goggles,
Oh
and
yeah, when they
they
did the
had,
red, right, instead of the green.
yeah, and
Yep.
they gave them to the soldiers, not the commanders, which
Yep.
I thought was very interesting. They just gave them to the soldiers, and they did this whole round of tests. And the soldiers that were wearing these night vision goggles that had this, like, this particular
Red. It was infrared. I
uh,
think they could see red instead of the
shade,
green. Yep.
yep, they ended up, these soldiers, started shooting into the air
Yeah.
crazily
Yep.
and scared the commander or whoever was flying the plane and stuff, and was like, "What, stop shooting. What are you shooting at?" And, these, I mean, multiple reports of these soldiers, and they're describing what they saw, and they saw the flyers, they saw
The
the
flyers. Yep.
feeders.
Yep.
So, I mean, and then, we have all of these um, structures in Europe, all these cathedrals and stuff with all the gargoyles
The
and all of
gargoyles.
the,
Yep.
those are fairly accurate depictions of what these things look like.
Yep.
So, we have the physical proof all over the place, for, all of this. And we have lots and lots of stories of like exorcism and, like the experience that I had with my client, in which, I had a face-to-face with that whole thing. And I've had other experiences, but so sorry, my mind just went blank. What was your original
Oh
question?
no, I wanted to kind of end this on the upside down world, and given that They Live was such a big movie, and the news station 54
So,
and all that
yes,
stuff.
so you, if you were able to, like I said before, if you were able to discipline yourself and calm the mind and repair your DNA and work with yourself and all of these things to regrow your coat of awareness,
Mhm.
because you're no longer tasty to these things, then
Uh-huh.
then people would be able to see them without the goggles.
Gotcha.
Like, people would be able to actually see what's behind the veils and stuff, because it's we're in a mind prison.
Yeah.
And to break out of Azkaban and to get past the flyers, or like, in Harry Potter, if you're going past the level of unawareness that you're at, that you're really hitting something real if you have challenges come up in front of you, like, in Harry Potter, on his way to the what was it, the sorcerer's, what was the first one? He had to go past the three-headed dog and then the basilisk
Mhm.
to get to whatever, like, jewel or thing that he had to get to. That was like some amazing thing. It was, but we're going to encounter that. We're going to have to, on the, breaking out of the mind prison, oftentimes you're going to encounter the flyers. If you're getting past the first level, you're going to, as you rise in, levels of power or levels of awareness and stuff, you're actually going to encounter, kind of the boss at the end of the level or whatever that is. And so when people are, regrowing their ability to see things, they're going to encounter, they're going to see what's really behind the veils. I feel
people are going to freak out.
But that's part of.
Yeah, I
that's
get it.
part of
I get it. Everybody's got to put the glasses on. So basically what you're saying is become a raw piece of cauliflower then, basically. So that way you're tasteless.
It's a part of us becoming the warriors for ourselves.
Yeah.
Being a spiritual warrior, a warrior for yourself. I mean, we talk about the hero's journey. This is the hero's journey. Everybody is able to face their hero's journey. What are you gonna face in your hero's journey? You're gonna face your fears, your hesitations, the things that are holding you back, the things that are making you small, the things that are hard to get over, the addictions that you have to stop, like all these things, like, the relationship that's toxic that you've got to change, like cleaning your house out, all these different things. It's like this is your hero's journey to rise into the next level of awareness. And if you can't reach down deep and pull out the strength and the courage, then you're not going to be able to go to the next level.
Yeah. I have a decode on final, but one of my decodes is called Final Boss. Final Boss decoded, and you're the final boss. It's you against you. That's what the code says.
Yeah.
It's just you against you. That's it. What you see and what you experience and all the things that are in your screenplay, in your code, you being the star of the show, it's you against you. You're the final boss going up against yourself, and it's just that simple. Yep. And, is there a way
do you remember also in Harry Potter when they were all lined up and the Bogart came out of that box and they had to, and it fed off of their fears that were in their mind. It would look at their fears and it would turn into their greatest fear because it was a changing type being. And they had to overcome their greatest fears showing up in front of them and turn it into something funny. And then it would take the power away from whatever it was that was showing up. And that is the overarching spiritual challenge here and that's what's behind the sovereignty movement, with all of these people doing all these crazy things to file all this paperwork to take their power back.
Oh God, I know. Simplicity
in the physical world, they're taking their power back.
Yeah. I just think to win the game, if there is such a thing, I think it comes down to neutrality, which is, the eye of the storm. The eye of the hurricane is you're untouchable in the eye of the hurricane. There's no wind there. On the outskirts, when you go outside of the wall, you get into the shitstorm, and now you're talking chaos and order. I'm not interested in that. Maybe some of you here in this, listening to this, you're interested in going out there and fighting against the forces and all that. You're outside the wall of the eye of the hurricane. I want to be inside the eye of the hurricane where it's neutral and it's peace and everybody leaves me the hell alone. That's what I want.
Logan, I will say real quick that I would say that the goal is to be able to be the eye of the storm regardless of what you encounter, that you are always the eye of the storm.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
When you're truly walking as the eye of the storm, it doesn't mean that you're not going to encounter things. It means that you have gained a certain, pillar inside you, and, an anchor and an ability to remain calm and clear and to deal with anything that comes at you, even if it is absolute chaos, which is why shamans challenge their apprentices with, they'll also apparently drop little plops of fear, like fake fear, to get some of these demons to follow them around so that they can throw them at their apprentices. And the point of that is, again, like I say, is that it's gaining strength. It's gaining strength regardless of what you come up against.
Yeah. I mean, it's like going back to being think about going back to when you plopped out into this world. I mean, I don't remember plopping out into this world. It sounds like you had the visions, but going back to a kid again, a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be this. I want to be that. You don't know what it feels like to be ripped off or stolen from, or a monster comes and it's like, kids are just innocent. Like that's what it means to win this game of life, is you're the final boss and you got to go back to being a child again. I mean, it's as simple as that, where you have no programming. And this is why, to me, nihilism is the way to do that. Nihilism. You got to get rid of all that. Strip all your
totally.
programming, all the religion. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, you know, all the religions,
All
and
the
this is my
stories.
opinion. Yeah, all the religions are owned by the same boss. So they're all right. Everybody's trying, and it's all division and causing, and it's all an ego clash. And of course, then you were talking about the feeders, that they love the ego. Boy, they'll feed on that all day long. So, you know, if you're somebody who wants to go debate people and stuff, they're going to feed off of your shit. It's like a damn buffet. You know, that's why you won't ever see me catch debating with anybody. It's a waste of time.
The stories are too that they've created all of those
Exactly.
divisions because and this is actually, this is in the teachings, like the body of truth, the entire body of truth, which, you know, in Christianity is Christ was the body of truth. In, you know, Egyptian mythology, it was Osiris. The body of truth was cut up and spread around the world, you know, and it's Isis that goes to recover her husband and goes to get all of these pieces and to put them back together. But like you know, throughout my personal experiences, I've because I see things in a different way, you know, when I look at books and stuff, I actually can see the golden nuggets of truth that stand out. But a lot of teachings and stuff work like a Trojan horse. That the golden nuggets, the nuggets of truth that are actually in all teachings all over the world. It was like there was one big pizza that cut up into a bunch of slices, and the slices got put, you know, there's like there's truth in every culture, every society, every esoteric teaching out there, and you just got to find all of the different pieces to the pie and put them back together. But there's within the golden nuggets that are within the books and the teachings, there's also stuff that's been scrambled intentionally. There's stuff that's been reversed. There's stuff that's been put in there just to like mislead you, so that because what I'm seeing is when people get exposed to there being truth in something, they're because of the low level of awareness and stuff that we have, not by our own doing, but because of that, the inner side of them, like their soul opens to the entire body of works. And oftentimes because there's something in them that identifies the nuggets of truth, but then they take in the whole thing. And so they invite the Trojan horse into their city, into their castle, because there's nuggets of truth in there, but then they invite the whole thing in. And so then, you know, you take all the programming, you splice it into your DNA castle of yourself, your energetic castle. You take the truth, but you also take the bullshit, and then you can't decipher between the two, and then you never really get to the full truth. And so that's, you know, it's just been part of the thing. But there is absolutely truth in everything, and coming out of the stories, coming out of like boxing yourself in, you know, really looking at things with neutrality. And that I mean, and so many of the things that you talk about and that you say too, that have been just amazing at what you've put together with all of your research and stuff, has been, you know, just really right in line with you know, my experiences and what I found and things that I've directly seen.
Well, we're all, as I say, thank you so very much for the kind words and the love and support. You know, every one of you here that have been attributed to this research. You know, as I say, I'm taking all of you with me. A lot of you have been inspirational. Robin, that's why I brought you on here, because I thought you were a great inspiration. I thought people would really get some value out of, because I mean, I don't have this talent that you have. I can't see that. I have a buddy of mine who he can see spirits. He could tell me as he sees dark spirits behind people, like hanging on to them and stuff, you know, kind of like this upside down world stuff. And he's mentioned to me, I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but he's mentioned to me specific names where he saw dark spirits hanging onto their shoulder. And, you know, like, it is what it is, man. You know, like, I don't see that stuff. I'm so oblivious. Like, I'm just so, for me, I don't have that. I'm very naive in these areas. I have other talents in other areas, but for me, I just try to keep it super simple. And, if the world's going to burn, I'm going to sit on the beach, and I'm going to watch it burn. And I'm not running. And if I'm going to die, I'm dying my way. Cause I know there's no such thing as death. I had to overcome that from big programming, being a JW with the fear of death and never coming back and all that stuff. I've gotten rid of that. And that was a tough one to get past for me anyway. So my truth is that,
what I've been told, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, my truth is that, there's no such thing as death. Is just a transmutation of energy, and then who knows what's going to happen after that. But I don't care. I'm like, I'm okay with it. For me, I'm okay. I'm not running. I'm not going to run from shit. I'll make decisions based upon what my voice in my head's telling me, and I would encourage everybody here to do the same thing. Whatever your voice, as long as, of course, then you come to a layer of: are you neutral? How much detachment have you gotten, and how much? If we're talking about the feeders that are feeding on you in the upside down world, like how much energy are you giving the feeders? Well, I mean, look at your life. Lay it all down on the table. How are you behaving? Are you angry? Are you bitter? Do you have to get out there and debate people and try to prove them wrong? Like that is all energetic food for what Robin is bringing out onto this topic here. And for me, it's like, that's why I'm a minimalist, and I'm all about neutrality, because I can see that it's two sides of the same coin, and I'm just not interested in that. I'm just like, I can see the game. I see the game. I see how it works. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. And to me, it's a trap there. It's a major trap, man. And that's why, we talked about sex. We talked about so many topics, like how big is sex? People will get rid of a lot of things, but when you get into, if you're single and you're going to go search for a partner, what do you think they're going to want from you? You think you're just going to get into a friendly platonic relationship and you're going to go out and have dinner and you're not going to get romantic and have chemistry? It's probably not going to be that way. There's exceptions, but can you get past that? And is that a requirement to level up, to graduate to a different level, if there is such a thing as graduation? So for me, to end this, my take on it, Robin, and we'll give you the last final thoughts. I think that being a minimalist, being a neutralist, allows you to see the bigger picture. Having as little attachments as you possibly can is a big win in my book. And it can be challenging because we create, why we set up to want sex? The game needs players. If you have these feeders in this reality that you're talking about, well, they can't feed on anything unless human beings start getting pumped out. And you need people to have sex, and that's why orgasms feel so good and all this sexual energy. So this is why I have been saying, and I'm not the only one, but the game needs players, and this is why orgasm and sex are big, and this is sacral energy, and why it's so big on the world stage, because it gives this upside down world a chance to feed. And that's what this whole reality is based on. It's a pyramid, it's a Ponzi scheme, the whole thing. And it's all from the top to the bottom, and it's just like everybody's using everybody. It's kind of a joke, really. I mean, if you have a friend, you enjoy I enjoy your company, but you use them. Well, what do you mean? You use them for their company, don't you? See, we don't look at it these ways because, well, no, he's just my friend. He's a really good friend of mine. Yeah, but you use him to go call him on the phone. Hey, let's go hang out. Let's go have a beer. Well, can you just do that by yourself? Why do you need to have your friend? Because you use your friend for company. So it's just we use each other. It's just this reality is so ridiculous, and it's hilarious if you ask me. This whole thing is ridiculously hilarious. And when you get tired of it, when you look at it and you're like, So for me, as a decoder, I see the machinations. I've become a nihilist, and I'm at a point now where I get a kick out of going out and feeding the stray cats. I call them I have the furry Jedis. I call them the furry Jedis. And I just go watch nature now. And that's what I get off on for me. And I keep it simple, man. So anyway, I know it's a little bit different, but Robin, what are your last thoughts on this? Talking about the upside down world. What are your last thoughts moving to get to finalize this podcast?
Well, I just wanted to, what came up when you were talking just a minute ago was the movie Moana, where in that movie, that tribe and stuff was trapped on the island. And if you look at humanity as being kind of like on that island, and they were, all of the traditions of her father's teachings in the tribe was like, don't leave the island, don't leave the island. And they
Uh-huh.
had all of their boats, you know, kind of hidden in this, like, I don't know, spot there and everything. And Moana was like, you know, she had this crazy grandma that was like the spiritual grandma and stuff that ended up turning into a stingray or whatever. But she just was driven to, you know, travel and stuff. And that's I've been taught that we, you know, we were once travelers, that we're able to be travelers, that once, you know, and that, yes, we've been in a vampiric reality, a parasitic reality, and that they have, you know, put a piece of their mind into our minds. And so, you know, now what's on the table for us, if you have the courage and if you have the strength and if you know, can work with, you know, yourself and really be disciplined and to be impeccable and to clean everything up and stuff. It doesn't mean you have to have nothing, because I definitely, I mean, I've got a lot of things here because I've been preparing for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and that's something that I've, you know, that I've been told and everything is, you know, to get prepared for a bunch of people coming. But, you know, clean everything up, to be impeccable, to you know, then you, at some point, we're going to be able to, those people that are connected to all that we really are going to, you know, have their awareness grow, and we're going to be able to move into, you know, awareness of the creational physics and, you know, working with, you know, the organic technology that we are within. And, you know, you know, yes, a part of that is to get rid of the stories, to get rid of the history, to get rid of the energetic entanglements and stuff, and to really be as a child, to be present, to be in joy, to be in, like, you know, that wonderful creation mode and stuff. But to also, you know, also be very aware of your energetics and stuff. But that we, you know, I think that some of the future that we have available for us and stuff is something quite amazing and quite astounding. And that this is the, you know, this is a really fun, can be a very fun existence as well.
Yes.
And that part of that is, you know, being able to, you know, face the things and that we don't want to look at, and to stand and to realize, oh, that didn't actually kill me. And, you know, I'm and if something does at some point, I mean, for me, you know, I've death walked with people over to the other side, and I'm, you know, for me, I am completely comfortable with whatever comes, because I know that that is not the end of my story. So you know, that there's other adventures to be had.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Well, I think the biggest message for this was, you know, we have parasites that invade the body. We have bacteria, pathogens. They try to take you down. They're I mean, obviously they were built by the same thing that created the immune system, which you'd call it, and scrap it up to God. And then there's the fractal where you don't see, which is the dimension, and the upside down world, which Robin has the talent of seeing. And then there's these feeders, which are like viruses, pathogens, bacteria that feed on your energetic, and they're parasites, and they need you as the host. That's really what the message is here. And so how do you become a very bland piece of raw cauliflower to these entities? Because cauliflower doesn't really have any
taste. Not be tasty.
Yeah, you want to be a raw. That's the joke. You want to be a raw, bland piece of cauliflower. That's about the cleanest you can become. And when you become a raw, bland piece of cauliflower, you have the ability to be free, And
simultaneously with becoming a raw, bland piece of cauliflower means that you're bringing all of your, you know, energetic threads back into yourself, and that you are, you know, that you are moving into, you know, like you've said before in your other podcast, being, you know, your own, you know, having your own Jesus Christ superstar moment, that you are fully, you know, fluffed out in your aura. You're not, you're not taking in poisons, you're centered, you're in a like a Jedi state, and that you're able to handle, you're able to stand up to things. You're not afraid anymore. You're not wounded, you're not getting triggered by things, and you love who you are, you love life, you appreciate the beauty in every moment
Yeah.
and the magic in the life that's around you. And all of that is what makes you unpalatable.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the key, right? To be unpalatable. That's what the key message here was, just that word, become unpalatable. I think that's really the big takeaway here, ladies and gentlemen. So Robin, it's been an honor and a pleasure. If you're in Shasta, if you're up in Mount Shasta, how close are you to the actual mountain? Where are you?
We're about an hour away. We're in the mountains between Lassen and Shasta. So there was a piece that I was shown when I went up to go buy property on Shasta itself, and the mountain told me not to buy property there.
Oh, okay.
The mountain said that at vortex spots, you don't want to live right on a vortex spot. The natives used to pilgrimage to the vortex spots for ceremonies or for certain things, for certain reasons. But that if you live on a vortex, a lot of the times it's pretty intense, that a lot of people get chewed up and spit out. And that the energy is extremely high there. And then there's a band of really, really dark energy around the circle of very light energy, because that's always how it works. And that is actually why the feeders are attracted to our luminous code of awareness, is because it's so amazing and bright and so powerful that anytime you have very, very high energy, you're also like, it attracts the really dark. And so there's a ring around that, but then there's a space past that ring where the energy totally balances. And so I was shown areas to look in where the energy is balanced. And so that's where I got the property. And it's kind of a funny thing, because the zip code I'm in, even though I know that that's part of the FEMA system or whatever, the districts, but it's a palindrome. It's 96069, so it's like really kind of funny in the numerology piece there. But
yeah. Well, those are Saturn's numbers as well. And Saturn ladies and gentlemen, I'm gut decoding of Archaics coming out on the 14th. And I got to tell you, I'll just end this with this. I mean, Robin's full name numerology is 74. Jason Matthew Bashir's is 74. And I'm going to tell you, what do you think AIX is tied to? The number 74. Go check out tungsten in the periodic table. It's the big W. That's artificial intelligence. That could be running this entire reality. That's kind of my last final thoughts. Robin, thank you so very much for coming on and being a part of this podcast. This was a lot of fun. We got to go and we've been here for a while, 2.5 hours. I love it. This is great. I hope we get a lot of traction.
Yeah. And I didn't even share like 3/4.
We'll have to do part. We'll see how it. Yeah, we'll have to come on and do it again, because this was a lot of fun, and I love your energy, and I love what you do, and I love your code. Huge fan of your code, so I'm really digging that. And of course, this is all lined up exactly the way it's supposed to be. So really, it's been an honor and a pleasure. I'm sending you tons of love to Mount Shasta from sunny, beautiful, warm, the Caribbean here in Mexico. I know it's cold where you're at. So you had said the weather's been snowy and rainy. So you can have that weather. You ain't going to catch me there. Forget that. I'd rather die. Anyways, I'm pretty stubborn in those. I'm pretty stubborn. I don't feel the energies. I bet I can go to a vortex center and probably just sit there and I wouldn't even feel it. I don't know. Because I don't have that experience. I'm kind of like immune to that stuff in a way. It's kind of weird.
Well, I can, if you're ever interested, we can, I back engineered how the way that people get to seeing and feeling. So if you ever want to start
of course, absolutely. I totally am interested in that stuff, because I'm ready to kind of dive into new areas of life and really kind of challenge myself. So yeah, I'm totally down for that, but we'll have to do part 2 for sure. But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Logan.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of I've enjoyed being
Yeah,
able
you are
to
so very welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to each and every one of you for showing up, for showing support. Go check out Robin's website, originshasta.com. Go support her. Check her out. If you're up in Shasta, go look her up. If you're a like-minded person, I'm sure, being here, you are. And my final thoughts, it's the Bruce Lee said, be like water. I say, be like cauliflower. So that's kind of I made the new insight. Did someone say that too? But I think somebody else actually said that comment.
Water
as well.
is the universal medium. It
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, water, wave, these all equal the number 18. Jesus, 18. Adam, the first man, tied to the number 18. So 18 is you're having the Jesus Christ Superstar experience. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor, a pleasure. Thanks each and every one of you for all your support of all these years. Supporting, go check out Robin's stuff, and we'll get together part 2. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for tonight. Wishing you a ton of love. Till next time, we will see you later.